everyone, Carly here. Oh, and Sparky, here he comes. So, and now he's settling in. I think I'm settling in too. Today I'm going to talk about something that I think stresses a lot of us. It definitely stresses me out. I know it stresses my assistant out. I know it stressed me out when I worked in the workplace, worked for someone else. Just about everyone I know, this thing, it's just like this scary monster that's just like taking over our lives. I think it's this thing that causes us to glorify the busy. Today I want to do a drawing about this thing. And this thing is called the to-do list. Yeah. I feel like the to-do list is just driving our lives. Sometimes I feel like it's driving my life. You know, it's funny because we've got these items on our list. Item after item after item. Action after action after action. And some of them feel super arbitrary. And then some of them we don't even put in our to-do list. They just live in our brain. And then that kind of causes this whole chaotic thing that we can't even comprehend, right? It's like this, like, I don't know why I'm anxious. I must be forgetting something, right? We get that anxiety because then we feel disorganized. But heck, over here, we're so organized. We have due dates. We have exactly what needs to be done. We break down bigger tasks into smaller tasks. And yet over here, there's freaking chaos because we didn't take the time to put it over here. To-do lists are really interesting because they kind of help prevent us from going here, right? To this place of like, oh, that's a happy person. Sorry. You know, this, it takes us to this place of overwhelm if it lives here. But to-do lists are supposed to prevent us from being all nervous and scared and anxious about our to-do list and about what we need to get done. I know for me especially, there's a lot of pieces to the pie, right? There's so much going on in my brain, in my life as a business owner. Even when I was working a full-time job for someone else, there was just always more to do than I could handle, that I could actually realistically do in one day. And that, I think, caused a lot of anxiety, right? Because the clock just felt like it was just ticking, ticking, ticking away. And yet all of this was not going to get done in time in order to hit that 5 p.m. deadline. And it's interesting to me because it's something that I think, like, right, the to-do list is really supposed to help us get our shit together, and to help us step away from this, to plan so that we can get stuff done by 5 or whatever, whatever your schedule is, and get you out of this kind of space. But I know for me, sometimes it's preventing me from living my life. Of just thinking about like going on a hike in the middle of, taking a moment and enjoying my life with my dog, and I see my to-do list and I go, I can't do it. I didn't send that email or do that thing. And that's totally just weird, right? I mean, it's just a list. Yet it's just a piece of paper, or it's just a software online where we can search for something, right? It's just a software or an app or a list, and yet it's really causing some serious stress and anxiety. I can't take care of myself because I didn't complete X, Y, and Z. I think what's also really interesting is that even if it was supposed to help us organize our lives and prevent this overwhelm of getting things done by 5 or whatever time whatever the deadline is, we never exactly put the right date in, right? The deadline is always incorrect. I think the majority of myself included, my clients, the people I talk to, we have trouble choosing a realistic date for the task. So we create, if we're a procrastinator, meaning we do it ahead of time, then we create anxiety that is totally unnecessary. That's like troll anxiety or something that looks like poop, but give me a break here. It's like this weird anxiety that shouldn't be there. Or if we put the to-do late too late versus too early, then we're right back to regular old anxiety. So no matter what, because we cannot realistically choose a date, a deadline, we are back to this, and a whole lot of questions of, oh shit, am I forgetting something? Because I guarantee you that we forgot to put something on our list. Sometimes I feel like the to-do list, there's got to be a better way. And so I think part of this exercise and this drawing is to figure out, what is the better way? Is there another way to organize our lives? I'm reading this book right now called The One Thing. And the premise of this book is to really focus in on one thing. Everything else is not important. This one thing is priority, and then there's just everything else. So what is that one thing in our lives that we need to get done? What is that one thing that is an absolute priority? I think for me, especially in starting this channel, my one thing, my one purpose, my one reason for being here is to help people, and myself, quite frankly, get rid of this. Get rid of stress and anxiety through different creative means. Right? So that's my one thing. So why am I focusing on, sending that stupid email? Why am I focusing in on, drafting a contract? Whatever. Now, I get it, right? There's the one thing, and then there's everything else. But I think this is a really interesting approach to pursuing our lives, because I think we all have a purpose, right? Yay, like we have a reason why we're on this earth. And I think it's vague, right? Like I don't think it's like you must be a doctor for thumbs, and that is your purpose, or even more specific, thumb knuckles. Like I don't think that is realistic in terms of purpose. But I think what is realistic is to say, like, I was put on this earth to have something to do with art, and I know that art is all about releasing anxiety. How are you going to do that? I don't know, but that's my one thing. And then everything that pertains to this one thing becomes priority, like creating this video. And then we have everything else, right? Sending that email is not a priority, because my priority is to share a message, to share a purpose, to get that word out there, to really take that thing to the next level. So I guess my question is, do you have, like, what is on your to-do list? And how can you take this idea and apply it? But I think that there's a time and a place for to-do lists, right? Like, I think that they have a home, and I think they really help a lot of us that when we're trying to sleep at night, right? We're trying to get those Z's in. Like, it helps because we can put this thought off until later. Or we could just use, like, Alexa or Hey Google, and they'll remind us to do it the next day. But I think it really helps us release that anxiety of having to remember, so we're not questioning the next day or feeling as if we are forgetting something. But I think that there is something within that, or above that. There's like this umbrella, this kind of umbrella thing happening, where that one thing, ooh, that's a pokey umbrella. There we go. A little less pokey. There we go. Um, I think that the one thing is our umbrella. What is the solution? Why is the to-do list causing us so much strife and so much concern? Well, we know that we have to choose one thing, one primary focus to step out of overwhelm. Choose one thing. Stop getting overwhelmed. Sparky's grunting over in the background because he's like, guys, just do it. Shia LaBeouf style. Just do it. Choose your one thing. So I'm curious what your one thing is. Definitely let me know in the comments below. What is your one thing? It may not be, it could be your purpose, but maybe there's just one thing that you really want to focus in on right now. What is that? Maybe it's finding a new job. Maybe it's taking care of your family. Maybe it's spending more time with your partner. Maybe it's helping people relieve anxiety. What is your one thing? And this one thing is like this umbrella. It's all encompassing for everything that you want to focus in on in your day-to-day life. What do you need to do to support that one thing? So let's just use me as an example. My one thing is I'm trying to decide where to write it. Where should I write it, guys? Should I write it on the inside or the outside? I feel like... Okay, we're going to switch to the pencil. Too much commitment. My one thing. Back to the topic. I think my one thing has always been to use art. I haven't done bubble letters in a million years. Whew. This is rough. Use art. A-R-T. Oh my gosh, running out of room. I think use art. Ooh, a little crooked there. Use art to we'll skip help too. I don't want to have to write this all out. I before E, right? Relieve. Oh no. I put too many I's. Relieve. Use art to relieve stress. I mean, I could write anxiety and all sorts of other crazy stuff in here, but I think that is my one thing. I think that's my one purpose, which is funny, right? Because for a long time, I was run by my to-do list. I lost sight. And I think maybe this is the real problem. This is the real issue with actual to-do lists, is that we lose sight of why we're even doing something to begin with. Look, I'm a great hustler. I know how to hustle. I know how to be disciplined and show up every single freaking day. And I guarantee you guys know how to do that too. You know how to hustle. You know how to show up every day, even if it's hard. But I think the to-do list makes us forget. Or maybe we find success somewhere else and we get distracted. Yeah. So the to-do list, I think, is supposed to be this thing that supports us, right? Like that supports this one thing where we're in control of it, versus it's become this thing that really has taken on a life of its own, right? It's like we created a monster that has its own consciousness now that we are answering to. It's kind of reigning in the kingdom. It's funny. I just watched a film the other day, a movie yesterday actually with my book club ladies, which I don't think I've talked to you guys about very much. But yes, I'm in a book club, and the ladies are amazing. I don't know why I needed to do that, but I guess because we talk a lot. But they're amazing, and we rarely get time to get together and do something fun, like a movie night. Sometimes we'll go dancing. That's like twice a year. And maybe a little more. I don't know. No, probably like twice a year. But anyway, we watched a movie called, I think it's called Dave Makes a Box. Dave Makes a Box? I think that's what it's called. Weird movie, guys. If you want to like laugh but also be like, what the heck am I watching? Check out that movie. It's on Hulu. Yeah, so so the main character in that movie, he creates a cardboard box fort, and over time the cardboard box fort has its own, like, it takes over, and it has its own life form, and it's just like building more upon itself and like jokingly killing people. So weird, not gory at all. But it was this thing that he built to like fulfill something within him, and then it kind of grew and turned bad, right? It like turned on him, which wasn't cool. So then they had to, in the movie, kind of fight back the cardboard box fort maze. Totally a weird movie, I'm telling you. Really funny. Definitely check it out. But I think that's kind of what the to-do list does to us. We create it, and then it kind of, at some point, we lose power over it. We just become slaves to getting the ideas like out of our brain and into the to-do list. And then the to-do list becomes a chore too. I think that they do have a life of their own after a certain point. So like, how do we slay that dragon? Because we might know our one thing, right? I think that's our first step, is to determine what our one thing is. But that doesn't destroy the to-do list. It might just create more like tension between you and your to-do list, right? You're like, I need to focus on my one true thing, my one thing, but I have all of these other things, everything else from the book that I'm reading called The One Thing. And that might create tension. So what do we do about that tension? Because that tension becomes more anxiety. So the first step is to figure out what our one thing is, because that's what we need to focus on and we know it. But our second step is to figure out how to prevent the disconnect between the monster that is the to-do list and our one thing. I mean, the first thing we should probably do is stop being so mean to our to-do lists and calling them monsters. We use art to relieve stress as an example. That's my one thing. That is my one focus. At this point in my life, and this point in my career, to relieve stress for myself, to help you guys relieve stress, figure out how to relieve stress in a different way. So for me, I think part of this, that one thing is, maybe this is the next step, is like, what are the things that you need to do? Where do you need to focus your time and energy to support this? I think this video is just one thing, right? This video in and of itself is me fulfilling like a portion of a pillar of this and focusing in. I'm giving literally like a piece of the clock of my time to it. Maybe translating those items into your to-do list, right? Having milestones. Right? Maybe my first milestone is create creative videos. And then all the tasks underneath here relate to that. Of course, then we have like our admin tasks. That's everything else. But I think this is the issue, right? This, like, what do we do with this extra stuff? The admin stuff, right? We can create, once we have our one true thing, we've got pillars to fill, right? These milestones, right? Create videos, raise awareness, get speaking engagements, right? I'm just thinking of like the things that I think I should be doing, create videos, right? Things that I feel like I should be doing to spread the word that there's more than one way to relieve stress in our careers, to address things. Look, like literally right now, we're talking about the stresses of a to-do list, and I'm working through this issue using a drawing method. So we're going to switch back to the pencil. So we've got two problems. Well, we got one problem. No, we've got two problems. The first problem is this admin work, this stuff. And when I say admin, I'm not just talking about like sending emails or drafting contracts or filing paperwork or sealing envelopes. Like, I'm talking about just like the stuff that feels as if it doesn't support this guy, right? It doesn't support your one thing. What do we do with that? So I think that there has to be an answer to this question, which is how much of your time, how much of your clock here, of your day, should you be giving to the stuff that has nothing to do or like feels distant from your one thing? Should it only get a little slice of the pizza? Now it's pepperoni pizza. Should it only get that? I think that is the answer, is to say, I've only got X amount of hours in the day. If I'm going to achieve what I want to achieve this week, this year, in this lifetime, I need to make sure that the majority of my time is filled with the right things. But here's the thing. We're just talking about your to-do list right now. We're not even talking about your family, right? Like, or the people that you care about, or your health and wellness, right? If this is the admin work, and if, I don't want it to be upside down. If this is admin work, and this is, what, health, you know, I think admin work should be closer to 5 o'clock, right? Don't you think? Admin work. And this is family, right? We'll say family and friends here. We'll include them. And then this is your health. I think this is where we have to be really clear about our boundaries, right? So the to-do list, it only, like, we literally only have X amount of time for this admin work. If we only have X amount of time for the admin work, what we realize is that this week we realistically can't get X amount of done. So we're solving this date problem, right? We know that if we only have an hour a day to focus on everything else, then we know that, well, I can't get X, Y, and Z done in one day. I'm able to more realistically choose what can get done and what can't. You know, everything else, then, this is funny. I put health on a pizza. Who's done that before? You have clear boundaries, right? Your health, I can go on this hike with my dog. I can enjoy nature. I can enjoy life with, you know, no guilt. Guilt-free. Now, you know, health can include a few things, right? It definitely, for me, includes me time. You talk about food and how you want to fuel your body. Like therapy. You have to think about what's realistic for you, right? What goes into this health category? What goes into this family category? What goes into this admin category? You got to be clear about, you know, what milestones support, right? What milestones support this one thing, so that you know what everything else is and what falls in this admin work. Now, if you're in a different place, right? If you own your own company, then you might be able to say, realistically, I can't achieve X, Y, and Z, but now I can outsource it. Now I know exactly what I need to outsource, because these things, while they need to get done, they aren't directly supporting my one thing. So the first thing is the one thing. Knowing your one thing. Oh, that's a fun N. I think the second thing is to know what milestones support that. So when we think about an umbrella, we can think about those little wires that come out and support the interior of the umbrella, right? What are the things that support your one true thing? I think once we figure out our one thing, we have to figure out our milestones. But within that, then we have to figure out everything else, right? So we have part of everything else is, first, in terms of our career, is the admin work that we're doing. We have to figure out, in terms of our professional lives, in terms of our career, what tasks or things should we just not be doing? Maybe we should have abandoned them a long time ago. We also have to think outside of our careers, right? So what about our social life? What about our need for connection? Our need to be with our tribe and our family. And we also have to think about health. What does my body need? What does my mind need? What do I need so that I don't have a full-blown freaking meltdown? And anything else that doesn't necessarily fall into this one thing that becomes everything else. Now notice here when we look at this kind of outline, and by the way, this is all designated right here, all designated. Part of me doesn't want to separate it into slices. All of this part of the pie is dedicated to this one thing. So you want to make sure that everything else, unless your one thing is family or your one thing is health, or vice versa. Maybe you own an admin business, but you still want to figure out what that everything else is. You want to make sure that this everything else is a smaller portion of the pie, so that your one thing, is the thing that you're spending the most time on. So that when you wake up next week, next year, on your deathbed, you know that this life, you weren't spent being busy. You weren't spent in anxiety or questioning chaos, or you felt like you didn't live as much as you wanted. You were able to achieve your purpose. Not at the expense of other things that are really important to you. I think what's really interesting in this whole perspective and this whole conversation is that, and you can look this article up, it's the top few things that, people in hospice say on their deathbed. And one of them is that they hear time and time again is, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. And so it's important to have these other pieces of the pie, to enjoy a guilt-free hike with your dog, or to, eat healthy and have time to recuperate and process. And it's also important that we look back on our lives and we say, I gave it my all. I pursued my purpose, my one true thing, to the best of my ability. And I'm proud of what I did. So in recap, I'm going to recap one more time for you. We've got, and I want to finish this crust here, we've got a few things. In order to stop having your to-do list run your life, we need to focus in on our purpose, or at least one thing at a time. The most important thing in your life. We need to then apply that one thing. Think of that one thing as an umbrella. Figure out the milestones. These little, those little wires that have the structural integrity that supports that umbrella. We have to figure out what those milestones are, what those tasks are that support our one thing. And then we have to figure out everything else. How much time am I willing to allocate to admin work? How much time do I want to allocate to family? And how much time do I want to allocate to health? Or how much time do I want to allocate to whatever else fits into your everything else category? And whenever you get that clear, when you get clear on how much time you want to allocate and what your priorities are, you're able to organize your to-do list in a way that serves you. And also you're able to manage it more realistically. You choose deadlines that are actually realistic. And you can say, if this thing is not supporting me, then let it go. It's not worth it. So we get really clear. So thank you guys so much for tuning in today. I loved this episode. It's been an absolute pleasure. I think I'm going to continue this drawing, filling it in, making it pretty for you. And maybe for me, I think I need this as a poster up in my office to keep me clear on my priorities and how to ensure that the to-do list isn't taking on a life of its own. Make sure to hit that lovely subscribe button. Regardless of where you're watching it, make sure you give it a big old thumbs up, because quite frankly, this is my first video like this, so I'm feeling a little nervous and I want to know if you guys like it. So also, I would love to hear what you think your one true thing is. I love you guys, and if you haven't heard it today, you are kick-ass, you are beautiful, you are smart, you are freaking intelligent, and I know that if you put your mind to it and you put your time to it, you can do absolutely anything. All right. Bye, guys.